All right, we are going to start this episode on a very sad and serious note. Not going to do the high energetic intro that I usually do because it is worth mentioning about the developing situation as we're recording this. So when you listen to this, it'll have been last night. But what's going on at Michigan State? And I'm going to read a few tweets from Philip Lewis, who is a front page editor for Huffington Post and also a Detroit native. But he's the senior front page editor for the Huffington Post, and he first tweeted out a screenshot from Michigan State University. This was an email, I think, that just went out to all students. It stated, MSU police report shots fired incident occurring on or near the East Lansing campus. Secure in place immediately. This is the most striking part, Taylor, of this email. Run, hide, fight. Run means evacuate away from danger if you can do so safely. Hide means to secure in place. And fight means protect yourself if no other option. He's also shared some videos. Then at about 8:45 Central Standard Time, there was a tweet from MSU Police and Public Safety saying there is another reported shooting at IM East. Police are responding. There are multiple reported injuries. Media staging area is currently being determined. And then at around that same time, 8:45 p.m. Central Standard, Philip Lewis tweeted, Michigan State University police say multiple people reported injured in shootings. Just an awful, awful scene unfolding. And I know a lot of folks are probably listening to the police scanner. I would urge you to not take that as gospel, but rather find some more legitimate outlets. But just another tragedy, and I think it was worth bringing up. I suspended the theater tweets because we're a college basketball podcast. This is obviously happening on a university and a college, but again, just remarkably sad, speechless, and in an effort to not become numb to this, if I'm speaking truthfully, I feel like I'm becoming numb to this. Taylor, any thoughts on what you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just respond to exactly what you just said, because we were previously talking about this before we started the show. Like, hey, should we keep doing the theater tweets tonight? Obviously, maybe nothing, no GIFs or GIFs that we usually tweet out, that's for sure. And yeah, all the other sports, or a lot of the other sports accounts that we all follow, are continuing to tweet out. And it's kind of it's kind of a tough middle ground, right? Yeah, you don't want to become numb to this, but we are a college basketball podcast. This is unique for us a little bit because not only is it, college basketball related or college related, but it's one of the premier college basketball schools in the country. I'm not trying to say it's more or less important because it is at that or another, but yeah, it's definitely, not ideal that we have to watch the news like on a monthly basis about this in some way, shape, or form. Unfortunate. I know that the police just said, please do not come to campus tomorrow. So today, it probably goes without saying that pretty much everything at Michigan State's campus, basketball included, is probably likely canceled for the foreseeable future, at least this week for now. So, yeah, I mean, where you go from here as a campus, I don't know. Where you go from here as a country, I guess it's just the same thing we continue to say is I don't know. But what do we do from here? Someone's got to have some answers. I wish it was us, because then we could solve those problems. So yeah, it's a very unfortunate situation. Obviously, hoping the best and that this person gets found and that there aren't any more issues on campus. And obviously, thinking those who have been involved in this thus far.
Yeah, very well said, Taylor. I think the main thing we want to emanate from this podcast and from us is all of our thoughts and prayers, which is, I suppose, really the only thing. I know it's not enough, but we are thinking about the Spartan community right now, and fingers crossed, praying that there's no casualties, and of the injuries that have been sustained, hopefully that they aren't life-threatening.
There is already
impact.
There is a
Casualties.
confirmed fatality. Yeah. Sorry, not to interrupt.
Gosh.
There is so far
No.
a confirmed fatality. So, yeah, just one so far. I hope that's what I'm saying. Hopefully, we can just I mean, I don't know. You can't say hopefully. That's not the way to put it. But, in the best case scenario at this point, we hope it's not any more than what it is.
Yeah, absolutely brutal. So we are thinking of the Michigan State community right now, from here at Theater and College Hoops. It's really, and you nailed it, Taylor. We don't have the wherewithal. We are not the proper point of contacts for this type of change, because we're just two idiots, like you said, that tweet Farmer Fran gifs, rubbing his nipples and tweeting theater. And this is way above our heads in terms of severity and seriousness. So I'm hoping someone who is the proper point of contact can figure out a solution, I suppose, is the best way I could say that. Never easy pivoting. It's going to suck. This is going to be brutal to do. It's probably going to sound awkward, but at this point, we do want to move forward and take a recap of this past weekend in college hoops, touch base with Taylor on an eventful weekend there in Scottsdale. So let's go ahead and, with the Spartan community in our mind, open the curtains. TD, welcome back. I know last week was a big one for you. You were running all over the place. Phoenix Open, Super Bowl. Tell me about it.
I am getting way too old for these activities. I don't know how I am even here just standing with you today, sitting with you today. Yeah, I went to the Phoenix Open 4 consecutive days, Wednesday through Saturday, and then capped that off with, only the largest probably collective drinking day of the year in the country with the Super Bowl, 20 feet from my house here as well. So as a realtor, I must say there could have been no better commercial for Scottsdale / Phoenix / Arizona than this last week, because it was 77 degrees the whole time. And the golf tournament was great. The Super Bowl was great, aside from maybe the deciding part of the game. But it was a wonderful week out here, as it always is for the Phoenix Open. Got to do a lot of cool things that I haven't been able to do before, just through some good connections and some good fortune with doing some kind of different booths and suites around the property that I hadn't really been to before. So it's just people doing people things out here, I guess, in the words of Subbi. So
yeah. Hey, Taylor, last Thursday on the episode, I told the theater goers that you weren't able to join because there was a possibility that you were rubbing elbows, shooting 18 holes with the likes of a Jerry Jones or an Arthur Blank or any NFL owners. Were you able to do that? I think you would let me know. You even saw the head honcho himself, Mr. Goodell.
So I guess I don't want to name drop, but I did sit at a bar with Roger Goodell after a round of golf.
Why wouldn't you want to name drop that? That's awesome.
Well, I don't want to name drop anyone else that I saw because I actually like those people, but Roger Goodell, who gives a shit, So it's just crazy because it's like Steve, I didn't golf or meet him, but Steve Young was like in the suite next to me at the Phoenix Open, and you're just kind of walking around. One of our friends was in a booth at 16 with Machine Gun Kelly, and just like it's just weird, and cool, and all of these things in one. When the Super Bowl is here, the ESPN set was in Old Town Scottsdale, so quite literally less than a mile from my house.
Was
that cool.
Taylor? Was their studio where like Hula's is and everything? I was trying to identify it.
Rusty Spur.
Okay. One of those
right
streets.
out.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you've been to Old Town Scottsdale, which a significant number of our listeners have been to Old Town Scottsdale, it's right by the Civic Center, where you walk over to the giant spring training area, right in front of the Rusty Spur, all of that. And that was cleaned up by 6 a.m. this morning. I drove past it to get coffee, and people were already, this town, sorry for me to rant about this, but this town is unbelievable in terms of major events. Half the people already have their Super Bowl stuff down and spring training stuff up by like noon today. Like the Super Bowl was like 8 hours ago, and everyone already had their stuff ready for the next event, which already starts this week. So it's just it's crazy, the turnover here and how quickly it gets done. Went down to that one night too. Super Bowl experience downtown was really great as well. It's really when the Super Bowl is here in Phoenix, it really is an experience unlike any other city because you quite literally have the country's like one is the most attended sporting event in the country in the Phoenix Open with almost 900,000 people going during the week, and then the other is the country's biggest sporting event in general in the Super Bowl, and they're both going on at the same time. It's quite the mashup of celebrities, bros, a lot of bros, a lot of bros for
that
sure.
Doesn't shock me.
A lot of bros, and just a lot of activity. So yeah, it was a great week. I got to spend it with a lot of friends. A lot of family was out here. Yeah, have a lot of different experiences, and tried to mix in some college basketball in between. So.
Yeah, don't worry. I was holding down the fort here. It was really nice here too. We're talking like 48 degrees, Taylor. So I lifted my ban on drinking. I finally had my first sip of alcohol since New Year's Day, but I was locked in to college basketball because I didn't have those amazing events to distract me. I wasn't able to go to the Phoenix Open, wasn't able to check out some Super Bowl festivities. But that being said, it did make me miss Phoenix and Scottsdale. If you know me, you know I lived there for about 7 years, and it does have a special place in my heart. Looked amazing. Probably, I mean, that was the weekend of the year for the Valley: Phoenix, Scottsdale, Tempe, even Glendale, which probably didn't get as many touristy dollars because everyone just went straight there for the game, and people stayed in the surrounding areas. But I would also mention, and I'm glad you brought it up, another great event to go to in the Scottsdale area, Tempe, Phoenix, spring training. It's a blast. It is so much fun. You get to see your team, your favorite teams. Hopefully, some of your favorite teams play in the Valley. I would definitely rather that than going to Florida, but it just never stops in the Valley.
World
and
Baseball
Kevin Durant, holy shit!
Yeah, Kevin Durant. I saw a dude at 8 a.m. at the Phoenix Open the morning that he got traded with a Kevin Durant Suns jersey on. It was nuts.
What does he
I'm
know?
like, so apparently there was a rumor, a report, insider information that he's buddies with one of the equipment managers of the Suns, and he knew in advance. He got a text early and said, "Hey, print the jersey, or whatever." So and then going back to baseball, World Baseball Classic is here in Phoenix as well in March. As if we don't really have anything else going on. That's going on at the same time spring training is. So if you're a baseball fan, talk about like the ability to come here and just have probably the best week of your life, spring training and World Baseball Classic at the same time. So yeah, a lot going on. All this during March Madness. So I'm going to be, but on April 5th, I'm going to be like on a stretcher, like ready to, I'm just going to need to go. I'm going to have to go do Aaron Rodgers, go into
darkness,
a dark cabin for 4 days and just kind of like evaluate my life and where it's going from here.
Look, and I know you're a realtor and you're a damn good one at that, but I have to say not many folks are going to be waiting in airport lines to get to Phoenix in like May, June, July. But, right now, get out there. I mean, you're not going to find two bigger proponents of the city than us.
People are like, well, how do you deal with the summer? It's like, I need like 3 months of hibernation to just even have the energy to get through the year, So
yeah, I hear you.
I'm doing my best. I'm trying my hardest, folks.
Yeah. I mean, you look good despite the tan line, but Taylor, let's go ahead, dive in now to the playbill. Let me see if I can catch you up on what you may have missed. I know you're a very attentive cat, but I think we got to start with the number one team in the nation now, the Alabama Crimson Tide. The rich get richer. How perfect. How perfect. In a 2-loss football season where the entire fan base pours their heart and everything into football, they don't make the playoff. That's okay. Now you got a Final Four contender in basketball with Nate Oates. Nate Oates has done an amazing job. And Bama is so much fun. I want them to make the Final Four just because of the brand of basketball that they play. They jack threes. Brandon Miller is super exciting. I know we have our beef with Seth Greenberg, and he compared him to Kevin Durant. I'd take it a step back there, Seth. That's not only unfair to KD, but more importantly, Brandon Miller. But he's been amazing, and I actually want to pat myself on the back for identifying him And I wasn't the only one, but early, this was before the Houston game. I was like, look, Brandon Miller is a stud, and he has been. Javon Quinterly, Mark Sears for Muscle Shoals. They got the swampland, baby, right? So I'm loving this Alabama team. They go into Auburn, enemy territory, hostile, one of the toughest places to play in the entire country. They're rivals, and they get the job done. I think Bama is built different and cut from a different cloth. I think this is a team that will get to a Final Four. Like I genuinely don't see them getting upset in the early rounds. Now maybe they lose in the Elite Eight, but this is certainly a deep second weekend team. I'm convinced of it. Taylor, thoughts on the Tide?
Well, you didn't even bring out what they were potentially best at, and that's on the defensive side of the ball. They're actually phenomenal defense as well, and they're just so deep. I mean, obviously you mentioned some of the big names, but you got like 10 guys who average more than 5 points a game. 7 of them, I think 6 of them maybe averaging more than 7 points a game. So they get it from all over the place. And we saw that this last weekend against Auburn. Rylan Griffin comes out and leads the team in scoring. They can get it from anywhere, like every night, and what a matchup they have this week against Tennessee. That's going to be a barn burner of a game. One, talk about a tournament level game. That's going to be it right there. Tennessee, tough week this last week, looking for a little bit of bounce back. But the thing I like about Alabama too is that they're not just like winning games. They're beating the shit out of teams after that loss to Oklahoma. They beat Vanderbilt by 450 American points, and then followed that up a week later and beat Florida by like 30. And I'm not saying we've talked about Vanderbilt on this program, but Florida's okay. Decent basketball team. Yeah, right. And
you shouldn't be beating them by 30.
Right. And then to go on the road against your rival and kind of shut them down. I mean, they did win, but they did only win by 8. But I mean, they held them to like 30% shooting. I just, they can really get it in any way that they want it, because even though Alabama shoots the ball generally really well, they beat Auburn shooting under 30% from the 3-point line and still beat their rival on the road. So they can really get it from a lot of sources. They have a great lead man, like you said, in Brandon Miller. There's really not a lot to dislike about this Alabama team. And we've kind of, like you said, you could kind of see this coming down the pipe all year. And this is the first time they've been ranked number 1 since was it the early 90s? Is that what you said coming into this? Yeah, 02. Okay, yeah, excuse me. So, well, that shows how old we are, because I was thinking, 15-20 years, right? So, whoops.
Yeah.
My bad. They're, like you said, they're fun. Unless you're an SEC team, you don't really dislike Alabama basketball, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that, I don't think anyone around the country is like, oh man, we really don't like them. I think they're kind of a collective darling, I think, going into the tournament, which is not often the case for a team that's almost a lock, maybe not a lock, but almost assuredly a 1 seed. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll see them fall below 4 in these rankings, but they just don't have a weakness that I can tell right now. And so where is that game against Tennessee? Is that in Knoxville? Because Brandon Miller's from Tennessee, and the Vols, man, they've lost to Florida, Vandy, and then who else did they just lose to? Missouri. You would think and hope, as a Vols fan, I want those 3, knowing that I got Bama looming. They're looking at they could very well be have accumulated 4 losses here in the last like week and a half. Where's that game at?
It's at Thompson Bowling. So
okay,
that's going to be, what an atmosphere that'll be. But you're speaking of Tennessee, though, that could be 4 of the last 5. And if you look at losses to Vanderbilt, who Alabama, as we just said, beat by 1 trillion points
Florida
2 weeks ago. Yeah, Florida, and then Missouri at home, and then put up 46 total points, against Auburn. Not a great stretch for Tennessee, but boy, Talk about a way to turn the year around, not year around, but turn the last month around, beat the number one team in the country. And that really shows you, I think, where we're at in college basketball right now. I think there's I don't want to say clear, but this is the time of year. I mean, we've been talking about this. You talked about it a little bit last week, and then we talked about it the week before. Is, obviously we're less than a month. We're 20, as when this podcast drops, we're 25 days from Selection Sunday, which is wild. And if Tennessee can lose 3 of 4 and look like dog shit, and they're still in the top 10 right now, there's clear separations between, who the AP poll, who the coaches think is going to go far and do well in the tournament and who they don't. Tennessee's kind of that line right now because, you lose 3 of 4 to the teams that they've lost to, but you're still a top 10 team in the country. That shows you more. I think that tells you more about the teams ranked behind you than it does about, Tennessee or the teams ranked ahead of them.
Yeah, and my thoughts on Tennessee is that I've seen enough over a long amount of period of time to still trust them to make some sort of run in March. Now, if that's a Final Four, I don't know, right? Winning 4 games is very difficult to do when you do have flashes of a stagnant offense, when you don't have a guy that can just get you a bucket. I don't know who that guy is. Is it Vescovy? Is it Ziegler? Is it JJJ? Who knows? So, but I have seen enough from them. It's kind of like UConn also. I still have seen enough from UConn, I think, to trust them maybe to be a Sweet 16 type of team. I wouldn't sell them. Same thing with Indiana. And we're seeing Indiana actually grow and be a dangerous team. I'm also glad that I stuck with them. But Bama is, I mean, it's obvious. They're the number one team in the country for a reason. You can say it's chalk, but this is why I think it's a tired narrative when folks are like, nobody's good, everyone sucks. Bama's really damn good. Houston's really damn good. Purdue is even still really damn good, although they're faltering a bit. I think those 3 teams are very, very good.
Yeah, and I mean, you could say the same thing about having seen enough about a team like Arizona, where you're going to have stinkers. That just happens. Shoot, even Texas, who, as we speak, is in a dogfight with 20 seconds left at Texas Tech, the worst team in the conference in the Big 12. You just lose on the road in college basketball, right? Like the only concern I have is when you lose at home or get smoked on the road. So you lose a road game to Texas. Well, Texas.
Yeah, Texas.
Oh, maybe hold on.
Texas though has done. I think they're doing just fine. How many losses would that be for them on the year? 6. That's 6. Okay. And in Big 12, in the Big 12, man. And their only other recent loss was an SEC game in Tennessee. But you're right. I mean, it's very difficult to win on the road. I don't know when everyone decided that each team has to be, we need to have 6 teams that have to be like 2015 Kentucky and just enter the tournament undefeated. Like when was this the norm? Why does everyone suck when we have 3 and 4 lost teams? That is the norm, as a matter of fact.
Well, today is actually, or the Monday after the Super Bowl is one of my least favorite days of the year for many reasons. One, it's that the country has a collective hangover, right? Football is over for
today, man. Right? Oh my God.
Monday was the least hungover I was of the last 6 days, if that gives you any indication.
Oh my
God. But I almost, sorry to interrupt it.
Go ahead.
On Saturday, I woke up and I wasn't even going to go to the Phoenix Open. I woke up at like 4 a.m. and I was like, I can't do it today. And then the sun peeked over the horizon for literally like a quarter of a second. And I was like, fuck it, I'll go, like, it's just like, I'll ride. But anyway, it's one of my least favorite days of the year. It's because everybody who's a quote unquote college basketball rider now actually decides to watch college basketball. And so now if you want an example of that, go look at Andy Katz's list he just put out of his power rankings for the week, which is the most absurd list of college basketball anything I've ever seen in my life.
That was good humor.
It was ridiculous. Yeah, it was not like April Fool's Day is like 2 months from now, dude. Relax. So, but it's the time of year where you now are like, oh yeah, Duke's still pretty good this year, aren't they? Yeah, Kentucky, they're always hot. They got talent, and you're like, can you just shut the hell up? Because we know that you haven't been paying attention. Okay, so don't masquerade like you as this college basketball writer that's been staying up past 9 p.m. each night to to watch these things, and that becomes very apparent the Monday after the Super Bowl always. And it's one of my least favorite days of the year from our perspective. It's also one of my favorite days of the year in the sense that like the sports world kind of starts to now focus in on our favorite sport, let's call it. But yeah, you're totally right. It's like, no, not everybody sucks. There are some really good teams out here, and no, you can't. There's a reason there's only been a handful of undefeated teams of all time.
Yeah.
So kind of same thing. Same thing with the NFL sometimes too, where it's like, oh yeah, were they an all-time great team? They finished the year 14-3. It's like, yeah, they because teams lose games. It's okay.
Yeah. We need to have the margin of victory be at like double digits every single game. It's kind of crazy, but Alabama, man, they're looking terrific. And I already know for a fact there are going to be some folks that pop onto ESPN, their app, or even on their laptop, and they see Bama at number 1, and they're going to be like, oh, sorry, I meant to go to the NCAA basketball page, not the football page. Don't adjust. You're in the right place. Alabama is the best team in the country right now. All right, Taylor, another team that we want to cover, and I had mentioned as one of the elite teams, is Purdue, but they falter in Evanston, lose to Northwestern. I was actually really looking forward to this game. It was going to be a great appetizer, a great primer for the Super Bowl, and it delivered. Awesome atmosphere in Evanston, and the students really showed up. I think they had a great court rush, and hat tip to Chris Collins, Chase Audige, Boo Booey. That team is fun, and I think what I enjoyed the most about this is that this was a win to pretty much solidify themselves in the tournament. I don't want them to falter, but I think it would take a pretty precipitous fall for the Wildcats to not be in the tournament since the first time since 2017, and only the second time only. I didn't know that. I thought they had been before 2017, but apparently not. But this team was a lot of fun. They were great. They were great against Purdue. Zach Edey got his, and I think that's actually the most impressive because I think a lot of folks are zeroing in on trying to get Zach Edey in foul trouble, and that's how you can then make your move and beat Purdue. Zach Edey was a great force, again, as he has been all year, but they ended up losing because of the balanced effort from the two head honchos in Chase Audige and also Boo Booey. So Chris Collins has done an awesome, awesome job. It's almost like he's done 2 rebuilds. He did a rebuilding job in 2017 of a terrible team. They started to regress after that, and now he has them on the cusp of getting back to the NCAA tournament. And my last point that I'm going to make before I kick it to you, Taylor, is I already know there are going to be some weirdos, probably Purdue Hardo fans, that are going to take exception with how Northwestern celebrated and how Chris Collins' kid was crying. A lot of alliteration there, and the reaction to knocking off the then number 1 seeded Purdue Boilermakers. This is a monumental win. Let these kids and this team enjoy it however the hell they want. And all eyes were on them. This wasn't lost in some Saturday huge slate. This was right before the Super Bowl, where I'm sure folks were watching, although it was on Big Ten Network. Kind of wish it was on like Fox or FS1, maybe. Fox had Super Bowl stuff. But let these guys enjoy it and go crazy. Taylor, thoughts on Purdue falling to Northwestern?
I'm actually going to give you shit first and not remembering how big of a deal it was that Northwestern made the tournament in 2017.
For the first time ever? I mean, it was a big deal. I didn't know it was an ever thing, though.
Yeah, it was a huge deal. And then they won. They beat Vanderbilt and then took Gonzaga like to the wire. And that Gonzaga team went to the finals. Bryant McIntosh was the kind of the point guard on that team. Household name, as we all remember.
Great name drop.
Household name. Thank God for having Wikipedia pulled up so I could remember who that dude was. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like we said earlier. Doesn't necessarily worry me about Purdue. It was definitely a line that, Purdue was only a 5-point favorite, and was one I looked at and I'm like, well, why wouldn't number 1 Purdue be able to, to run this team over and take advantage of the size that Zach Edey has? You talk about Northwestern making the tournament. They could solidify. If it's not solidified, they can solidify it tomorrow night against Indiana at home. Talk about the way to stamp your ticket is beat Purdue in Indiana back-to-back games at home. Then yes, you're definitely in at that point. the funny part is, you talk about the cusp of being in the tournament. They're in second place in the Big Ten, and they're kind of the only team that could catch Purdue if Purdue somehow faltered down the stretch, because they have a tiebreakers,
well, if they beat Indiana,
that's what I'm saying.
That game is going to determine who can catch Purdue.
Right. I'm just saying that's just kind of that shows you either how much Purdue is ahead of the Big Ten, or however you want to phrase the parity that everyone likes to say is that they're the best conference, and then they just eat each other up. They're not the best conference this year, but we get to hear this every year. It's like SEC football, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, we just beat each other up, and that's why we're better than everybody else, But if they win on tomorrow night, they're the only team that can catch Purdue, and who would have predicted that coming into the year, that they would be, above 500 in conference, that they would stamp their ticket on that, and then they'd stamp their ticket to the tournament as well. And are they building a statue of Chris Collins if he makes the tournament twice?
They might have to. Alongside that statue is the crying kid from Northwestern with the braces. I think we all remember him. And then was the flautist, was the flautist who was crying, was she Northwestern as well?
I actually think she was Purdue.
Oh my God.
Hold on, let me look this up.
Please look that up. Please look that up. Because after that game, we need to find both of them. If she was Purdue, maybe she's took it hard as well. But yeah, Chris Collins has done an awesome job with the Wildcats.
It was a Villanova Piccolo.
Oh, it was Nova. All right,
and it was the Piccolo. But we'll give you that. We'll give you
that. My bad. Wildcat flute versus Piccolo. Thank you. You know what? We need to, for the sake of accuracy, I'm glad you looked that up. Also, this just in, Texas goes down, right? Texas officially lost to Texas Tech. We'll see what that does to their rankings. But Texas Tech, what a weird, I think they only have 3 wins in the Big 12. 2 of them, Iowa State and Texas. That's pretty hilarious.
And in the last 3 weeks or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Hottest team. One of the hottest team in the country right now.
We'll see what they do in the Big 12 tournament. I don't know. We'll see. The accountant, Mark Adams. All right, Taylor, let's head out west. UCLA basically wrapped up the Pac-12 regular season title, which I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bummed about. I did pick them to win the conference title, the regular season conference title. I personally value it a little bit more because then, let's say, the tournament and the conference tournament, I should say. And I say that because I think it's a better reflection of your body of work over the course of the season. Now, of course, Vegas Pac-12 conference tournament is going to be a blast, and obviously we're going to want Arizona to win it. But with Arizona losing to Stanford and then UCLA picking up a great win against Oregon, who we're way too damn lenient on how we're describing bubble teams. Folks talking about Michigan and Oregon coming into Saturday as bubble teams, it's enough. They have double-digit losses, and it's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, by the way. But what the hell are we doing here? These guys phrase it better. Say they have a ton of work to do, because that's the cold reality. Right now, they are not sniffing any bubble. They're not in. They need to win the Pac-12 tournament is how they get in, and the Big Ten tournament. That's how Michigan and Oregon get into the dance. But UCLA with an awesome win. And like I said, just wrapped up the regular season conference tournament, in my estimation. Taylor, is there an outside shot that Arizona shoot, or who's in third? Utah still?
Utah. And
anyone of those can catch?
And yes, there is, because Utah plays Arizona this week, which is obviously a huge game for them. Arizona and UCLA still have to play each other. So it's not wrapped up in my mind. And UCLA still has to play Utah at Utah. So, Arizona's 1.5 games back. Utah's 2.5 games back. So I'm not willing to say that UCLA has wrapped it up. Tiger Campbell, I know that it's an old hat that I have harped on him, but he actually has not played very well the last 3 games. He shot 20% from the field. I don't even think he made a bucket one of his last 3 games. Single digits scoring. Now they have won those games. Don't get me wrong. I understand that. Jaime Jaquez had a great game there this last weekend. But no, I would say I would give it until maybe next week to anoint them, because if they get through that Utah game at Utah, if it wasn't at Utah, I maybe wouldn't be so not I'm not pushing back, but I wouldn't be maybe against this. But they still have to go at Utah. Utah has obviously surprised a lot of people this year with their performances, especially at home. And they got Arizona at home earlier in the year, which kind of kicked off their season really in a lot of ways. And so they still got to play Utah at Utah. If they come into the last game of the year against Arizona, the other key is that if Arizona wins that game, they will have the tiebreaker because they'll have won both games against UCLA. So I'm definitely not exactly on board of them having wrapped it up quite yet.
I appreciate the pushback for sure. I just personally think that they're going to beat Utah on the road.
Yeah, sure.
It's not a done deal. But yeah, that did go into my equation and how I came up with the result of it's a wrap. And also, I don't think Arizona is going to beat UCLA in Poly, but I do think that it's going to come down to that game, essentially. I don't know if UCLA will officially have it wrapped up prior to that game, but we'll see. I mean, it's the opportunity.
The money that I'm going to debate on spending to go to that game in Vegas when that.
I thought you meant in LA.
No, in Vegas, like especially at that point, it could be very well two top. It could be if we get to a point where the title is decided, especially if Arizona does end up winning it, you're talking about a Pac-12 championship game for the 1 seed in the West is what that would probably be for, as long as these teams don't stumble in another game down the stretch. That would be as big of a Pac-12 title game probably as any with that there's ever been. Both teams would probably be top 5. You'd have the conference player of the year this year in Azuolas Tubelis, most likely, versus the conference player of the year in Jaime Hawkins. Well, Jaime Hawkins was conference player of the year last year, I believe.
Mr. Matherin, man.
Yeah, duh. It was Ben Matherin. Yeah, right. Excuse me. Sorry, there's too many lists of good players at these two schools. So
that's all right. You're sunburnt.
Yeah, right, no doubt. But yeah, I mean, you'd have the 2 best players in the conference is what I'm getting at, and then you'd have the 2 best teams in the conference. Both would be top 5, number 1 seed in the West, and I'd be sitting here probably going just like I was on Saturday morning before the Phoenix Open. I'd be like, shit.
that sunrise is going to peek over
like,
again.
Oh, should I go to this? Yeah. So, but UCLA continues to prove that they are a Final Four caliber team.
Yep.
Which they are. They are, the 2 Final Four caliber teams of the West. Out here, Gonzaga just. This just not their year for them.
No,
here.
They're in. Gonzaga's going to be a team, Taylor, where they're going to get bounced in the round of 32 or 16, and there's going to be people who are going to try to outsmart themselves. And when that happens, we're just going to say to those folks, they showed you who they were the entire season. They've just been in dogfights with terrible teams.
Yep. But no, UCLA is, in my estimation, better than Arizona at this point. Fortunately, we still have another opportunity or 2 to prove that.
Yeah. So we'll see what the rest of the season looks like for the Bruins. Jaime Hawkins, he actually came out of a bit of a slump and just dominated the Oregon schools. Anytime you get to play against the Beavers, that's a nice little get-right game. And Hawkins got right there in Corvallis, traveled to Eugene, did the exact same thing. If they can get some decent contribution from Amari Bailey, dangerous Bruins team. And
they're so good defensively. I think it's just under there. We talked about how good Houston and Tennessee are defensively, but this UCLA team is probably as close from a defensive side of the ball as any of like Mick Cronin's like Cincinnati teams. They're kind of scrappy. They're not kind of scrappy. They're very scrappy. On that side of the ball specifically, those Cincinnati teams couldn't play offense worth a damn, but the defensive side of the ball they always had, and at least that side, this reminds me a little bit of those teams, especially down the stretch here, where they can just say, hey, we're going to lock it down and you're not going to score.
UCLA has some occasions though where they're ugly offensively, but you're right, they are a menace defensively. When I was watching that Oregon game, and Folly Dante, every single shot that he took looked like it was a root canal. Every single time Will Richardson came off of a ball screen, it seemed like mission impossible. Right. Kuznard, who kills a lot of teams, was shut down. So yeah, UCLA's defense is really tremendous. Taylor, a few quick hitters now, though. Why don't we move on? Memphis. I just want to talk real quickly about the job Penny Hardaway is doing. I think a couple seasons ago, I said, and I questioned if he was a good coach. Penny's done a pretty good job, and I think they're a tournament team right now. They're second in the American, and they just beat the hell out of South Florida, which is where you're supposed to do, and then also beat Temple at home. Any thoughts on the Tigers? I suppose I just want to issue a brief apology to Penny Hardaway because I think he's doing a pretty solid job.
Totally. It's one of those teams that I think even though you don't write off teams, we know you don't write off teams. But
I'll write off like Gonzaga or something.
Okay.
How about that?
But a team that was written off a little bit. Not that they were bad. They just hadn't really put it together for a long enough stretch of games. Now, even though they lost to Tulane a week and a half ago or so, they've won 8 of their last 10. They have and you're right, Penny has put a pretty good coaching job together without having the Amani Bates, James Wiseman. That was kind of the shtick early in his career there, right? He can't coach because we're just going to roll the ball out there to the next number 1 pick in the draft and let her go. This team is definitely a little more cohesive than some of those previous teams. The metrics don't love them I know that we're not all metrics people here. The metrics don't love them, but they certainly, in my mind, are a team that is going to sneak up on people potentially come tournament time.
Yeah, it'll be. They just seem like they're one of those teams that is always going to be a 7, 8, or 9 seed, something along those lines in the tournament. And I think a lot of Memphis folks want to go back to those Calipari days, but I don't know if that's necessarily feasible in the short term. For now, I think you just got to take and accept being a tournament team, which is really good. If you can be a tournament team on an annual basis, that's really all you need. And then from there, hopefully you get hot. So we'll see how Memphis goes about the rest of their season as well. Go ahead.
Well, and you're complaining about bubble teams. They are a bubble team, but are you taking them or Oregon on a neutral site? I'm taking
Memphis.
I'm taking them like 8 out of 10 games, right? And
yeah,
they have them essentially on the same, only 2 teams ahead of Oregon. And I think we've probably watched a little more Oregon basketball than maybe the average college basketball fan, just being, Pac-12 guys. And you don't have to watch that many Oregon basketball games to be like, oh no, this team's not good. So Memphis is better than that.
I swear we're valuing some of the decent wins more than the awful, putrid losses. Who did Oregon lose to at home earlier this year? That was just terrible.
I think it was Utah Valley off the top of my head.
You're probably right. That stench is like being sprayed by a skunk. It doesn't just go away after a day or two, right? That's going to be there for a while. All right. I'm remembering it.
It's like the voters were like, yeah, Dana Altman made a Final Four like 6 years ago. They're still probably good. We don't watch any of their games. I'm sure they're fine.
Yeah. This is, you know what? Let's give our love to Memphis, advocating for Memphis. Taylor, another few quick hitters. Did you see the UC Davis, UC Santa Barbara brawl over this past weekend?
Yes. I didn't see it live. Well, nobody saw it live because who's watching that shit? But there's two things that stuck out to me. Why did the assistant coach get suspended?
I don't know. I just want to play this tape though. And I actually want to first and foremost focus in on the guy in the hat.
Yeah, no, that's the best part of this whole thing.
Let's break this thing up.
And then of course the announcers being like, "Stop it."
I mean, so we'll describe this guy for the listeners. He is just picture like a bro in a tank top with a what do you call those hats?
Is that even a bucket hat? No, it's like a cowboy hat.
No, it's a big like wicker hat or what? I can't even
a
think.
Straw
like
hat?
Straw hat, a sun hat. Yeah, and he's just jumping up and down like the hype man of a UFC fight or something, or a WWE fight. I don't even know why he was there, but like the juxtaposition of him like broing out with with 85-year-old people sitting in the front row as two guys are brawling. Yeah, one of the best videos of the year. But I still don't know. Maybe I just missed it. But I don't know why the assistant coach got suspended or ejected.
I have no clue.
Because I know the head coach ran over there, but then the assistant coach got ejected and suspended. I'd have to look into it more if I cared about UCSB, known as UCSTD by some. Also, the only college in the country with its own private beach. So why are you so mad? Why are you so mad if you are the only college campus in the country with its own private beach?
Pepperdine doesn't have its own private beach?
No, they're on the other side of the road.
I see. All right. Well, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. The fan was probably my favorite. And then of course we got the announcers trying to make peace by saying, stop it. Stop. What the hell are you going to do, man? It's been popped off, right? The champagne bottle cork, it's off and it's through the window. You can't really put that back in right now. Although I suppose I appreciate the effort.
And somehow, this is how you segue. Somehow that wasn't even the funniest interaction of a player and someone not associated with the actual basketball program of the weekend. And what was that, Sue?
No, you take it away because that was a brilliant segue. Do it. Take it away.
The cheerleader, the cheerleader for Mississippi Valley State and Alabama A&M got was easily one of the funniest videos I've ever seen. The announcers
she was like, it wasn't even on purpose how she initially got hit.
She just walked up to him in the middle of the court and like turned him around and started like poking his chest. The broadcasters are the funniest of this whole thing. Someone in the background is yelling security, like Ralphie May yells security, if you remember him from back in the day. And then the announcers are going, the Alabama A&M coach, he's fussing and cussing. And it like as the cheerleaders getting kicked out of the game, it's an incredible video. One of my got to be top 5 favorite videos I've seen. Because I mean, it's just absurd. The cheerleader just walks onto the court just at random and just starts like poking the guy in the chest.
I'll give her credit for at least waiting for a stoppage in play. How funny would it be if she would just came on during the court, during action, I don't know, and just deed him up or like tripped him or something like that? It wouldn't actually be funny. That's dangerous. But this all started because that player, that Alabama A&M player, I think maybe lost his balance or something after taking a shot and accidentally grazed her. And just a few possessions later, she gets that stoppage in play and thought it was something that he did intentionally with malice in his heart. And I'll tell you what, this cheerleader, I'm telling you, can play for me any day of the week, twice on Sundays. You look in the film room and you already know the head coach on any sort of defensive breakdown for Mississippi Valley State is probably going to be like, we got more resistance from this cheerleader. But that was something to behold.
The security guard, who is also like 97 years old, who like waddles over there too to like kick her out of the game is hilarious. The interaction with them too. She's like, no, you should kick him out of the game. Like, what are you doing? This obviously isn't your first basketball game. You're on the squad, so you've been to a basketball game before. I think you should know the cadence of like who's going to get kicked out in this situation.
Unbelievable. And we can laugh about it because no one's been seriously hurt in that UC Davis UCSB fight. No one was seriously hurt in the Mississippi Valley State Alabama A&M. And just saying it out loud, that security guard's probably like, why am I being called into action during this damn game? Can we please just not do this?
Well, in Missouri or Mississippi Valley State or whatever is like the worst team in college basketball too. They're like 4-25 or something this year. So the fact
really angry, she was fed up.
Yeah, exactly. So you're exactly right. For her to still have that fight while they are almost the literal worst team in all of college basketball, you got to respect some of that.
I do. Hat tip to her. All right, Taylor. Like I said, we can laugh about those. This is. I feel like we're bookending it on serious stuff, but this is inexcusable. And the reports that are coming out are truly shocking. New Mexico State, what an awful year for the Aggies. And I'm talking about all this stuff off the court. Of course, there is an investigation going on with a potential murder. And well, it's not potential, it is a murder. But now there's indications of hazing going on so bad to the extent that they had to cancel the rest of the season. Taylor, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, their coach, who I can't remember their name, certainly isn't going to have a job for the rest of his life in this sport. Because how you let a team, well, I shouldn't say let, because I don't know all the inner workings of this, but how you have a team that, gets to this degree. And the worst part about the murder part, well, other than the murder part, right, is that like there was alleged cover-ups inside the program that people knew more than they did. And then now you have a hazing incident going on where, such to the degree that you shut the program down. And we're not talking like a school we just talked about, like an MVSU or whatever, a team that kind of nobody has heard of. New Mexico State's like a decent basketball program.
They beat UConn last year in the tournament.
Yeah. The Bular brothers are certainly not thrilled with this. I can tell you that. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about a team that we were actively rooting for in the tournament not so long ago. And the fact that it's come down to this, the basement, the literal basement of college athletics now, where you might not even you can't even feel the program at this point is really, you're right. It's shocking. And it is pretty sad all the way around that, obviously, someone had to be killed before, things took place. And then on top of that, how the program even went on to that. And somehow, I don't want to say this is worse by any means, but somehow that wasn't even the low point of their actual season is ridiculous.
Yeah. It seems as if the second Chris Jans took off for Mississippi State, everything just went to hell in Las Cruces. It's very appalling and troubling. Only other 2 points that I want to make. One, this is going to cripple them in terms of recruiting and fielding a competitive team in the next coming years. We could always rely on them coming out of the WAC for the most part and placing hearing their name on Selection Sunday as like a 13 or 14 seed. That's going to be done for a while. Now, I think New Mexico State is going to fade into obscurity because I just don't think players want to be a part of that. Also, hazing and bullying for me is obviously wrong, but I find it so difficult to get behind someone who's hazing or bullying because it's like, dude, do you know how much effort that takes? Do you know how much you have to try and go out of your way to make another person's life a living hell? Also, I'm so tired. The hazing stuff is so stupid and played out. It's dumb just because this kid's a freshman. Like, I get picking up food orders or singing in front of a team meeting, but I mean, if it's hazing to the point where you have to cancel the season, stop defending this nonsense.
Yeah, there's goofy, like embarrassing type of stuff. Yeah, sing karaoke in front of everybody. Yeah, whatever. This is not middle school. This is high level D1 basketball. Like you just threw, not that necessarily any of these guys were going to the NBA, but like you just threw all of that away. We're not talking about like some community college in the middle of nowhere. Not that it's good there either, but you kind of just threw all of your NBA aspirations away because of this. And that's about the dumbest thing you probably could do.
Yeah. Or just professional aspirations.
So yeah, sure. Continuing your career in the sport in any manner.
Yeah. So let's hope they get that cleaned up there. All right, Taylor, let's now go ahead, get to our bets. But first, want to provide you a message from SeatGeek.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at Belly Up Sports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, but you can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
All right, Taylor, time to get in my belly. Right now, you were sitting at 12-17. We took the last week off. I know. Let's march towards 500. Damn it! You're actually like an Oregon or a Michigan. Obviously, you have a worse record technically, but betting is a lot more difficult, in my opinion, than winning college basketball games. Right? So, how do we improve upon this, T?
Well, I usually go for a lot of obscure, more, kind of off the beaten path games. This week, we're going to go to a little more notable games that people know. We're going to start with friends of the program, Providence. They're at the AMP, as they call it now. They're taking on Creighton. They're underdogs at home. Kind of a decent. Do we want to call this a rival? It's not a rivalry, but there's some history between these teams. I mean, obviously they're in conference play. I think Creighton has actually won a significant number of the last 10, like 8 of the last 10, I would like to say. But this Providence team is just they've stuck around. They're definitely a team that's going to upset, not even upset really anyone in the tournament. They're going to be a top seed in the tournament or top half seed in the tournament. But anyway, they are underdogs at home. So I'm going to run with Providence. I'm sure it's going to be lit up or amped at the AMP there. So we're going Providence first, +2 over the Creighton Blue Jays. Number 2, this is a line that I'm sure if the Shark was still around, he'd be like, oh, something's up with this. St. John's heading on the road to DePaul, to your neck of the woods. DePaul sucks, right? Let's just say it out loud. DePaul sucks. St. John's only a 1-point favorite. Really makes you think, why? And I'm getting sucked into that trap right now. And I'm going to roll with St. John's. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with getting sucked into that trap. So we're going St. John's on the road by 1. And then finally, Kansas headed on the road to Okie State. Kansas, obviously a team that is top 10. They have every opportunity to win another title this year. And they are just 1-point favorites on the road right now as this program is being recorded at Oklahoma State. So some coin flip games. I'm not saying that you should do this. I am probably going to do this. I'm probably just going to parlay all these teams' money line of who I want to win because they're all kind of coin flip type of games. So we're going to focus in a little more on some games that are with some meaning here this week. Or this episode. See if we can't get back on track. So that's Kansas, St. John's, and Providence.
Gallagher-Iba is going to be turned for that one. Yeah. And I feel like there's one game every single year that I'm assuming this is going to be on ESPN or something. Probably get Frischella calling it because he's just a Big 12 guy. But I feel like we get that once every year where we go to Gallagher-Iba. I think there's that high camera angle, the seats. It is going to be a zoo in there. You know what? Mike Boynton has done a really nice job with the Cowboys this year as well. So it's very clear in the Big 12, West Virginia and Texas Tech are the absolute worst. Oklahoma and Oklahoma, they're in that awful pile. Well, Oklahoma State climbing a bit.
Well, and I want to pick them. It's something we've talked about for years on this podcast, right? And it just happened tonight as we were recording this. Kansas is technically in like 3rd place in the conference, right? And what happens every year in the Big 12, except for Baylor, finally, like 2 years ago.
I trust
right?
Baylor.
Yeah, it was like, oh, let's just let Kansas win it again. Texas already lost. I just don't. It's that time of year where Kansas is like, yeah, okay, here we go. I just don't see Kansas losing, 5 times in conference, and they already have 4 losses. It's just tough for me to see. I guess they still have a game against Baylor and TCU left as well. So that's let's say if they don't win one of those, okay, then I can't see Kansas losing 6 times in conference, right? So it's just that time of year where Kansas is like, okay, we're going to take over the reins and go control our own destiny here.
Yeah. Monster matchup against the Bears this upcoming weekend. Looking forward to that. All right, Taylor, let's go ahead, get on out of here with some good things. I'm going to pass you the rock again.
So we are going to start or end this in a positive manner where I started in the positive manner on this, and that's with golf. We're going to go to Auburn, where Craig Noyes, student at Auburn, sank a 94-foot putt to win a car. Great celebration, great video. The announcer was just made the whole video. He was fired up. And so, yeah, pretty cool for a college kid to be able to win a car. You could tell this dude was a golfer when he took the putter back. He's like, okay, wait a second. This guy might actually, he's not just slapping at it like mini golf style. Right. So shout out to him for making a 94-foot putt to win a car. Hopefully they don't make him pay the taxes on that on that windfall there.
Man, that's how you intertwine all of this and tie it back. Well done, Taylor. And you know what? I'm glad he won a car. I feel like we've been seeing from professional organizations these cheap gifts for hitting a half court shot in basketball or this putt. Like, here's $500. Are you kidding me? $500? Good for the young man. He got himself a car. My good thing, L. Ellis. He became the first Louisville Cardinal, to record 33 points and 5 assists in a game in 43 years. That's kind of crazy to think. 33 and 5 game, 40 in 43 years. The last time that happened was Darrell Griffith in 1980 during the Final Four. The reason this is a good thing is because L. Ellis has been a very lone bright spot in an otherwise disgusting year in Louisville. They got nothing going right for them. It's been an awful, awful season for the Cardinals. But L. Ellis, I really want to tip my cap to him in an era where kids want to transfer, and that's okay. I want to make that abundantly clear. If a situation is not right for you, if you don't enjoy the losing, if you want to change something, go change it. They have the autonomy. I'm proud of players that have that choice. But I also want to hat tip a guy like L. Ellis, who is saying to himself, I'm a Louisville Cardinal. I'm going to give this my best effort. And he does every single night. Like I said, he can't beat a team 1-on-5, but he has been a lone bright spot for the Cardinals. And I just want to really acknowledge his demeanor and attitude in a season where it'd be so easy for him to just say, screw this, I'm out. L. Ellis, well done.
Yeah, big shout out to him. I guess this is a good thing, but somehow there's still 13,000 plus people showing up to the Yum Center to watch basketball games for some reason. So
they love their Cardinals, man.
I guess shout out to maybe L. Ellis for keeping. L. Ellis is probably the reason that many people keep coming to Cardinals games. So good for him.
Yeah, I'd go to watch him play and at least express my gratitude for sticking with this otherwise awful situation. So L. Ellis, that is my good thing. Taylor, let's go ahead, get on out of here. Great episode. Good to have you back. We will catch you next time on Thursday. Enjoy the hoops ahead.